All right, Shalom. Chosen salvation, all praise to Yahweh, by Shema Shai, by Shema Kakadash, double honors to the elders and apostles that rule well. And salutations to the brothers that's doing the truth and sincerity. This is things we need to remember for the dark chapter coming. Now, this is just a video of this guy basically telling a dream that he had. And his dream it's like aligns with Bible prophecy. And also, the Lord said that people were going to be having dreams. It's just which is and when they telling dreams, it's a form of them prophesying, but they need the prophets to edify the dreams. If the Lord didn't make it blunt enough for them. But this is Joel chapter 2, verse 28. It says, "And it shall come to pass afterward that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. The old men shall dream dreams, the young men shall see visions." And that's what you see going on in his case. And the reason why your sons and your daughters shall prophesy doesn't mean that they're going to be out there on the highways and byways teaching the truth and teaching the things to come. But when they tell you the vision, that's them prophesying. And that's why they need a prophet to break it down so they can get the edification. It says, "And also upon the servants and upon the handmaids in those days will I pour out my spirit. And I will shoot wonders in heaven and in the earth, blood and fire, pillars of smoke. The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and terrible day of the Lord Yahweh come." Right, man. So, uh, see the fires with the all these forest fires and whatnot. The sun turned into darkness. Um, what is it? Solar eclipse, and then the moon into blood. The blood moon is before the Lord coming. So whenever you see that red or that orange big moon, that looks like it's a yeah. So next chapter is Acts chapter 2, verse 17. It says, "And it shall come to pass in the last days," and we are in the last days. Um, you know what? I'm gonna start at verse 16. It says, "But this is that which was spoken by prophet Joel," which that's what I just got to read. Like it's saying in the Acts, "And it shall come to pass in the last days," and everybody know we're in the last days. Said, "The Most High will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and daughters shall prophesy, and young men shall see vision, and your old men shall dream dreams." Right. So this is exactly the same breakdown. That's what this guy is doing. "And on my servants and on my handmaidens I will pour out in those days of my spirit, and they shall prophesy. And I will shoot wonders in heaven above and signs in the earth beneath, blood and fire and vapor of smoke. The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and notable day of the Lord come." Same thing. Lunar eclipses, or solar eclipses. Slacky, my bad. The sun shall be turned into darkness. That's a solar eclipse, and the moon into blood. That's the big blood red, that red moon. It starts off looking extremely red, and as it raises up, it looks like it's in line with the Earth. Sometimes, if you catch it at that time, and sometimes it's extremely huge. Sometimes it doesn't. And as it raises back up into the sky, it starts to lighten up from a dark red to a lighter red to an orange color, orangish red type color. And all these things are taking place before the day of the Lord come. It says, "And it shall come to pass that whosoever shall call on the name of the Lord shall be saved." right? So you got to have the name. That's a cut to the churches, to all these various religions. If you're not coming up under the doctrine, the scriptures, in sincerity and truth that's being taught by the apostles, the GMS, and the brothers that's teaching the truth that the apostles are teaching, then you won't be saved from the coming destruction, which he's been explaining in this vision. And ultimately, you got to be an Israelite too to be saved. And another step deeper is you have to be the elect of Israel. You have to be of the chosen nation of Israel. So,
from this dream. And in fact,
go ahead, let's play.
the families and not just the guys hanging out. And so last year, around February, I had a dream. And the dream was so hyper realistic, I can still remember the tastes and the smells and the feelings from this dream. And in fact, when I woke up from the dream, I was so confused because I thought it was actually happening. And you know, you've had dreams before where you can kind of tell it's a dream. This was not the case. It really shook me up. And so in this dream, you know, I was in my house, and most dreams, sometimes you're in a house or you're a building, and in the dream it's your house, or the people that you talk to and interact with in the dream are people that you know, but in real life, none of that's the case. Well, for this dream, it was my real house, and it was my real family and people that I knew in the dream. And so in my dream, I'm laying in my bed, and I'm looking up at the ceiling, and there's just enough ambient light where I can kind of see the ceiling. My natural night vision had come into play where I can kind of see things in the room, and I'm just laying there staring at the ceiling, not being able to go asleep in my dream. And all of a sudden, it was like someone flicked on a light, and the light was so bright and so white, it was almost like a hospital room, like an emergency room or in a surgery room where you're looking up at a bright light, and everything in the room lit up in that shade of white. And then it turned into a bright yellow, and then into a bright orange, and then a dull orange. And I was like, that was so strange, but I looked and the light wasn't coming from a source of like a light switch or a lamp or anything. It was coming from outside through the blinds. And so I roll over to the window that's where the blinds are at, and my family's sleeping in the bed with me. My wife and my kids are in the bed with me, and we're all sleeping as a family in the bed. And I end up looking through the blinds and seeing a massive mushroom cloud in the direction of Tampa. Now, mind you, I'm pretty far off from Tampa, but the explosion was so large that I could see it from where I was at. And as I'm like looking at that and seeing this massive explosion that's happening, fully understanding that this is most likely a nuclear explosion, all of a sudden my entire house just shook, like someone, like a giant, just smashed into it with a huge hammer and shook the house and rattled the windows to the point where I could feel the vibrations in my back and in my legs through the bed frame and into the mattress. I could feel it. I could feel it in my chest. And that woke my family up in the dream, and my kids are jarred awake, and my wife's like, what's going on? And I'm like, we got to go right now. We got to get all of our stuff. And I remember as I'm saying that, I'm thinking, I did not do enough to prep my go bag. I did not do enough to prep my medical supplies and our food. Like, I'm going and grabbing individual items and just throwing them into a duffel bag and grabbing random guns and trying to just throw them into cases and stuff like that. I had no preparedness whatsoever in this dream, and it gave me almost a sense of panic. And so I'm trying to control this panic as my wife is, I'm trying to give her commands, and my kids are running around looking for stuffed animals and toys that they want to grab, because I'm telling, grab everything that we can right now, grab what we need, we got to go. And so as we go outside, this is about 2, 3 in the morning in the dream, and we go outside, and I open the door, and I can feel the humid air in the Florida air as it hit my face, and I could smell that morning smell, you know what I'm saying, where you go outside in the morning and it just smells like the morning, and it smelled like that. And as we go downstairs, I'm in shorts, my wife's in shorts and or PJs, my kids are in their pajamas. I'm in my shorts and just have like my boots on with no socks, just the shoes untied, just to try to get out of the house quickly. And I remember going out to the car, and at the time, real world, my car had been having problems. And so I borrowed a vehicle from my buddy Jordan. He let me borrow his Tacoma. And I remember thinking in the dream, because the Tacoma was there in my dream, just like it was in real life, like everything was like it was actually happening. And I remember thinking, wow, I'm so thankful, God, that I have this truck right now. Because what we were planning on doing is the only thing that went through my mind is go to the property that I used to work at that had closed down, a few months prior, and just hope that it's open and we can shelter there. And so I get in the car, and I remember opening the car door and sticking my kids in there, and they're starting to cry, and my wife's asking me a bunch of questions. And I get into the car seat, and I could feel the coolness of the leather seat, and it's almost like sticking to my skin because the humidity and the dampness of the air. And so I could smell the air freshener inside the car, and I'm throwing stuff in the back, and I get in there, and we peel out of the neighborhood. And I remember thinking, I was like, man, we got to get there before all the people start coming out, because they're also going to be looking and seeing what's going on. We're going to get stuck in a traffic jam, so I don't want that to happen. So I'm just peeling away, and it's about 10 minutes away. And when we get up to the entrance of this property, I remember thinking, I hope, Lord Jesus, that this gate is just dummy locked and it's not actually locked. And I go up to the gate and the chain is dummy locked. And I'm like, thank you, Jesus. So I drive the truck through the gate on the gravel road, and I shut it and I lock it behind me, and then I just peel off. It's about a mile up the road on this gravel road over to the office building, which at the time was a Connex that was retrofitted to be an office. And so I'm peeling up the road towards this Connex. I'm thinking, Lord, I hope they didn't change the locks on this thing. And I hope that it's unlocked. And I go up to the door, I wiggle the handle, and it's unlocked. And I go into the office. Now, mind you, we had powered this office with a generator, and because we didn't have electricity hookups at the time. So when we were done with the workday, we would wheel the generator into this Connex office. And there was a small leak, but it smelled like a little bit like gas. And I open the door, and I can feel the cool air of this office. And that was just, in the evening air. And as I go inside, I can smell the gas. Like, this is how real the dream was to me. And I huddle my family next to one of the desks where there's a computer. And as we're huddled on the floor next to this generator, next to this computer desk, I look up to this window up on the office area, just a small square window. And then I saw another bright flash of light again. And when I woke up, I was so confused. And it was one of those dreams where it was so hyper realistic. I was like, God, are you trying to show me something? If so, I really hope I never have to experience that. And I'm not saying that it's anything. I'm just saying what it did is it woke me up into a mindset to start making sure that my stuff is ready, to start making sure that my family's prepared, to start also, in reality, the biggest takeaway I got of it was to start cherishing the time I have with my family, and to start cherishing my loved ones and not taking them for granted. And so I think what I want to start off with this is when you're developing goals for this year, and I've said it in multiple videos before, but I think it's so important for you to invest in yourself, whether that's taking a class, whether that's going to the range, whether.
All right, so he going off with his preparedness. Yeah, that's what's coming. That's what's coming to America. America is eventually going to be hit by thermonuclear missiles. It's kind of reminded me of the vision. I mean, the vision. What Apostle Tahari said. He said he was just speculating, or just it's just something that he was thinking about. But um, in other words, don't take it like serious. But when he said the first nuclear missile went off, and then they were able to make it to a specific location before the second one went off. Apostle Tahar said he think that that's what's going to happen to America. A nuclear missile going to be shot off, and um, Israel going to try to negotiate with the Russians. They're going to try to negotiate so they won't send no more missiles, and then that's where they're going to eventually send the rest of the missiles. And even with that being said, because I think he was referring to the precept, and I forget, and the apocrypha with the Assyrians, with the Carmanians. I'm gonna go ahead and bring it out real fast. So I can bear with me. Second Ezra 15 and 30. Also, the Carmanians. The Carmanians are the Iranians, um, also known as the Persians. They changed their name just recently, sometime in the 1900s. They changed their names from the Persians to the Iranians, but those are the so-called East Indians. They under the branch of Islam. You know, that's why they hooked up with them Arabs like that. But second Ezra 15 and 30, also the Carmanians raging in wrath shall go forth as the wild boars of the wood, and with great power shall they come and join battle with them. Right? The Carmanians is going to join in battle. Arab, so-called Arab nations, the Ishmaelites, according to the Bible, fighting against the U.S. and Israel. The U.S. just sent another airstrike on the Houthis. Um, Israel also just sent an airstrike. Damn, what did they send it to? I think they in Syria, but they said that was in retaliation from uh, it wasn't Yemen, it was the Houthis. Salaki, because it was something I just briefly read, but it weren't. I ain't going too deep on it, but retaliation for them shooting a missile at the Israeli airport. Yeah, so Israel retaliated twice within 24 hours. Um, and you brothers can look that up. But I'll be going into detail about it. But yeah, the Persians, because they already have been speaking up, because the proxy war that's going on down there, Iran is part of the proxy war with Hamas and Hezbollah. They deal with them. You know, um, so the little proxy war between Hamas and Hezbollah and Israel, Iran is involved with that, and Iran is on the side of Hamas and um, no, I just said the name, and Hezbollah, right? So they're eventually gonna join that battle, and it says with great power, which is their military might, and they've been broadcasting military might for several years now. Shall they come and join battle with them, and shall waste a portion of the land of the Assyrians, America. Right, so they're gonna waste a portion of the land of the Assyrians, man. They're not gonna waste the whole thing. But I think it was another precept that I was looking for. So I can bear with me. Okay, here it is. This is what I was looking for. Salaki. But that's still, that's a portion of the land of Syria. It doesn't say the whole thing if you go on off the vocabulary, but it says Revelations 11:13. And the same hour was there a great earthquake, which is for the nuclear missiles, and the 10th part of the city fell, and in the earthquake were slain of men 7,000, and the remnant were frightened and gave glory to the Most High God of heaven. The remnant is the elect, the chosen. Um, Slain of men 7,000. If I'm not mistaken, yeah, seven just mean completion, a complete amount of men. But the 10th part, um, when you look up the how America is broke up into FEMA regions, there are 10 parts um, of FEMA regions. You know, so they all might coincide somewhere, but we'll figure all that out in the near future. This just reminded me of that. But nonetheless, though, America is gonna be hit by thermal because another missile came right after that. Um, America is gonna be hit by thermonuclear missiles. America's gonna be totally wiped out by thermonuclear missiles, man. The second Peter chapter 3 verse 8 it says, "But beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day is with the Lord is 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is one day, because the Lord time is different from our time. The Lord is not slack concerning his promise, as some men count slackness, but is long suffering to usward, not willing that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance. But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night." See how it snuck up on him as a thief? He was in his bed asleep. "In the which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise." The heavens is America. America is a heaven, man. It's the white man's heaven, you know. And that great noise is from the nuclear missiles. "And the elements shall melt with fervent heat," right? That fire. "Earth also and the works that are therein shall be burned up." Everything that's here in America is going to be burned and turned into dust, from the people to the buildings. "Seeing then that all these things shall be dissolved, what manner of persons ought ye to be in all holy conversation and godliness?" Right, so you have to be in holy conversation, speaking on the truth and godliness. And you have to have the right name. You see, he started calling on Jesus, which is an idol, and it's not the Lord's name. So he would definitely not be saved. And you have to be of an Israelite, man. And there ain't gonna be no escaping these missiles. Here's Revelation chapter 9, verse 16. It says, "And the number of the army of the horsemen," which represents the nuclear missiles, "were 200,000. 200 million nuclear missiles gonna hit this place." And I heard the number of them. Because what's gonna happen is um, the Russians gonna shoot all their missiles, and it's gonna be all controlled by Yahushua when he returns, whom the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. But the Carmanians, which is the Iranians, the Elamites, according to the Bible, that's their biblical nationality. The Ishmaelites is Ishmaelite nations. They got missiles. They're gonna be shooting them on them. America's allies have America's allies gonna turn against her, and you see what's best happening right in front of your face with all this trade war, tax and tariff and things of that nature. And the U.S. dollar is breaking people's countries. You know, so they eventually gonna turn against her and shoot missiles on her also. But all this is gonna be orchestrated by Yahweh Bashim Shai, man. So as far as the 10th part falling, um, we gonna eventually see that. In the future, how that's all gonna play out. But for now, ultimately, America is gonna be destroyed by thermonuclear missiles. You know, and the Lord might reveal that point later on, but we gonna see. So the only way that you can prepare for these times, one, you have to be an Israelite. Isaiah chapter 33, verse 6. No, you know what? Let me read this and listen out on Isaiah 33 and 6. "And wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times. The wisdom and knowledge is going to be your stability. The wisdom and knowledge of the Bible is going to keep you stable. The wisdom and knowledge of the Bible is going to be your faith. When you look up that word stability in the Hebrew, is Amun Ha, which means the faith. The wisdom and knowledge of the scriptures, the truth of the Bible is going to be your faith um, in these times, man. It's going to keep your mind stable so you won't freak out. And strength of salvation. You're going to need this truth, man, to be saved. The fear of the Lord is his treasure. This is Isaiah chapter 55, verse 6. It says, seek ye the Lord while he may be found. Call ye upon him while he is near, right? So you have to seek the Bible, seek the truth. The true prophets that's teaching the scriptures are who? The apostles, the GMS, and the brothers that's following the same doctrine. Let the wicked forsake his way, the wicked of the nation of Israel, and the unrighteous man his thoughts, right? And let him return to the Lord Yahweh, and he will have mercy upon him, and to our God, for he will abundantly pardon, right? He gonna pardon who? The nation of Israel. But the elect, down with the elect. See, all of our people are not gonna return to Yahweh Shema Shai, which is gonna lead to their destruction. You know, his whole vision basically stated that he was gonna be destroyed, him and his family. How everything took place, man. You know, so with that being said, and it doesn't matter what color you are, but if you're not a so-called Black, Latin, or Native American, or come through that line on your father's side, then you don't have a chance of making it. But with that being said, call Lord Yahweh Shema Shai, give honors to the elders and the apostles of the will, and salutations to the brothers that's doing the truth and sincerity. Shalom.